Hello and welcome to Excel Mathematics TV. This presentation will be about fractions and percents. Let's get this lesson started by defining ratio. So, what is a ratio? A ratio compares values through division. We can express ratios in fraction form, so we can also use division. Let's have an example to better understand the concept. Cheryl answered 80 out of 100 questions correctly. The expression 80 out of 100 can be expressed as a ratio. We can write it like this, or as a fraction, 80 over 100. This ratio compares 80 to 100. If that's so, we can write it as a percent. Do you know what a percent is? A percent is a ratio which compares a value to 100, just like our example. A ratio or a fraction can be expressed as percent. In symbols, n over 100 is equal to n percent. Applying this to our example, we can say that 80 over 100 is equal to 80%. Now that we know the relationship between ratios, fractions, and percent, let's talk about writing ratios as percents. To learn, let's solve some examples. We will look at real-life situations, express them as a ratio, and then express the ratio as a fraction. Here's the first example. 85 out of 100 students are joining a field trip. The expression is 85 out of 100, and we can write it as 85 over 100. Now that's in its fraction form, so we need to express it as a percent. We will use the definition of percent we talked about earlier. That is, n over 100 is equal to n percent. Since the value of n in our example is 85, then 85 over 100 is equal to 85%. Now we have the percentage of students joining the field trip. Let's visualize it in order to understand it even more. This is the model representing 85% of the students joining the field trip. Let's have another example. On average, 35.5 out of 100 employees have life insurance. Let's find the percentage of employees with life insurance. So, 35.5 out of 100 can also be written as 35.5 over 100. As you all know, n over 100 is equal to n percent. In this case, n is equal to 35.5. Then the percent form of 35.5 over 100 is 35.5%. Let's visualize it. This is the model representing 35.5% of employees with life insurance. Moving forward to the next topic, let's study how to write fractions as percents. So far, all the fractions we've written as percent have 100 as their denominator. But what if we have a fraction and its denominator is not 100? How do we write it as a percent? We need to find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100 to write a fraction as a percent. Let's try writing 4 over 25 as a percent. You see, the denominator of the fraction is not 100, so we can't use the percent formula right away. We should multiply the denominator by a number in order to make it 100. However, we can't do it with only the denominator. Whatever we do with the denominator, we also need to do with the numerator to keep the value the same. So we will need to multiply the numerator and denominator by a number that will make the denominator 100. Since 25 times 4 is 100, then we should multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and as we said earlier, 25 times 4 is 100. So the fraction is now 16 over 100. Since the original fraction and the fraction we just got have the same value, we can say that 4 over 25 and 16 over 100 are equivalent fractions. Now we can use the definition of percent we've been using in solving the previous examples. That is, n over 100 is equal to n percent. The value of n is 16. So 4 over 25 is the same as 16%. For the next topic, let's do it the other way. Let's discuss writing percents as fractions. Percent comes from the words per centum, which means per hundred. We can use this idea in writing percents as fractions. Let's have some examples. Write 66% as a fraction in simplest form. If we're going to use the origin of the word percent, 66% means 66 per hundred. So 66% is also equal to 66 over 100. But this fraction is not yet in its simplest form. We need an answer which is in simplest form. To simplify the fraction, we need to know the GCF of the numerator and denominator. The greatest common factor of 66 and 100 is 2. Then, divide the numerator and denominator by 2. Doing so will result to 33 over 50. Thus, 66% is equal to 33 over 50. And that was pretty easy. But now we have one last example. There are 50 students in a class. 21 of those students are girls. What percent of the class are boys? The number of boys is not given in the problem. So the first thing we need to do is find out the number of boys in the class. That's pretty simple. Just subtract the number of girls from the total number of students. That is 50 minus 21. The difference is 29. Then 29 out of 50 are boys. It can also be written as 29 over 50. We are looking for the percentage. The percent of the class that are boys is equal to 29 over 50. We need a fraction with a denominator of 100. To do that, multiply the numerator and denominator by a number that will make the denominator 100. Since 50 times 2 is 100, we will multiply the fraction by 2. Multiplying gives us 58 over 100. Now the denominator is 100. It gets easier from here. Because n over 100 is equal to n%, and n is 58, so the percent of the class that are boys is 58%. Our lesson about fractions and percents ends here, and this is pretty useful in mathematics and even in real-life situations, so keep practicing. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.